Hey, welcome back. There are rumors that at upcoming WWDC conference, Apple will announce their new AR/VR headset, and I thought now is a good time to discuss all the possible ways in which learning Apple graphics APIs can benefit you. Depending on your personality, one reason might resonate with you more than another. Some people are easily motivated by an opportunity to learn something new, while others are motivated by money. And so you might wanna watch this video till the end to learn all the ways in which metal can benefit you. And speaking of motivation, if you like my content, please like, subscribe and comment to support this channel, it really helps me out. The first reason to learn metal is to understand how computer graphics actually works. You have a few options here. Most popular are OpenGL and Vulkan. OpenGL is a very high-level library and therefore it is the easiest to start with. Working with it reminds me of having a set of rules that you need to follow, and the problem I have with it is that you don't really understand why these rules exist. And when you wrote the code following these rules, you don't really have a good understanding of how this code is going to work under the hood, how it's going to interact with CPU and GPU, and what really happens down there. And maybe you don't really need to know. Maybe all you care about is what you have on screen, and in that situation, this choice might be just fine for you. But if you like learning about how things actually work, then you want to get exposed to some of these implementation details, and in that case you are probably going to look at the Vulkan API, which is a very low-level cross-platform graphics API, and the problem I have with it is that it is too low-level. There you get exposed to too many implementation details and you end up writing a lot of boilerplate, spending a lot of time doing that before you can get even something show up on screen. And what I found is that being forced to write tons of boilerplate really kills your motivation to keep going, and the key to learn something is to consistently do that, and with things like Vulkan it's extremely difficult to do. Next on the list is DirectX, which is Microsoft's graphics APIs, and similarly to Vulkan, the latest version of DirectX is a very low level and it has all the same downsides to it as Vulkan. But if you can maintain this consistency in learning it and plow through all this boilerplate code, which might seem meaningless to you when you just getting started, then you will probably learn a whole lot there. And the last on the list is Metal, which is the framework that I personally started with when I was getting into computer graphics, and I never really regretted that decision. The reason is that Metal actually has a very good balance in terms of complexity. It sits somewhere in the middle between OpenGL and Vulkan, maybe more towards the Vulkan side, where it exposes just enough implementation details to you to really have you a good idea what's going on under the hood, but at the same time it doesn't bore you with all the boilerplate that you need to write just to get something drawing on the screen. Another reason why I like Metal is because development tools are pretty good there. Xcode IDE has great debugging and profiling tools for Metal applications, so when your application is running, you can start debugger and really get a good idea of what's going on in the application, what you have configured on CPU, what you have going on GPU, debug everything, even look visually at what is being drawn on screen and all these other things that are extremely helpful and insightful. That's not to say that Metal is perfect, because it's not. It has its own problems, one of them being the fact that there is simply not enough documentation on the internet about it. And depending on your personality, that might be a disadvantage or actual advantage, because if there is no documentation, then that means you will have to dig in yourself and try to understand how to do things the way you want to without simply following someone else's tutorial as a robot without maybe understanding exactly what are they doing there or why. Another reason is that while Xcode has good debugging and profiling tools, when it comes to text editing and search and refactoring, this IDE is not really all that great, and it doesn't compare well to JetBrains products, for example, which are top of the line. In addition to that, Xcode build system is kind of a mess. It's really difficult to get started with because it's just very different from other IDEs that you might have worked with in the past. But for this problem, I actually have a solution. You might watch one of my previous videos on Metal, and there I actually show you step by step how to create the project from scratch and explain how build system in Xcode works. So I got you covered there. Second reason, you might want to learn Metal if you want to become a better software engineer. Maybe you're a web developer and in your spare time you build your own personal projects trying to get better at your craft. And if you get into graphics programming, you will literally discover the whole new world, which has its own problems, its own design patterns to solve them, its own constraints, and all of those things are very different from what you typically deal with in web development. And if you understand and adopt those design patterns, then you will soon realize that you can actually apply them to typical web development problems in a very unique way to create efficient and elegant solutions, and that will really make you a rock star in your workplace. Next reason to learn Metal is if you want to work at Apple. And if you look at open engineering positions at Apple, you will notice a tons of jobs related to AR, VR and graphics programming in general. And regardless of which operating system you will work on, they will all use Metal because that's a cross-platform graphics API for all Apple devices. On the contrary, outside of Apple, there are not many jobs where you would program with Metal, and therefore there is just a handful of professionals with those skills, and that means it will be easier for you to get that interview at Apple if you want to apply as a graphics programmer. All you need to do is to put some effort, work on some side project with C++ or Swift in Metal, and then put that project on your resume, put some Metal keywords there, and pretty much guaranteed that you will at least get a job interview at Apple. The fourth reason to learn Metal is if you want to become a tech YouTuber, kind of like myself. You'll notice that these days pretty much everyone and their mother have YouTube channel. And there is so much content about everything, so that if you want to get started, then you would really have a hard time competing with all these other YouTubers for the audience. But if you want to find a niche in tech where there is not that much content being created, then you will pretty much guarantee for yourself that every person who looks up this topic on the internet will have a link to your video shown up at the top of their search. And to tell you a secret, Metal is actually one of those topics. If you look it up yourself, you'll notice that the most recent Metal videos go back 2, 3 or more years. I started my channel on how to do Metal in C++ because there was literally no information about it at all, and one other niche that is currently entirely free is how to do Metal with Swift. So if you're serious about your YouTube, then go grab that book that I mentioned earlier and start recording your videos. And the last reason to learn Metal is if you want to become a millionaire. When Apple finally releases their new AR/VR headset, they will basically create a new platform for which you can build your applications. And this presents tremendous opportunity because think about it, every time a new such platform is released, like it was with Facebook apps back in the day or with iPhone and App Store, those who were the first to build and publish their applications for such platforms, they were the ones who were able to capture a lot of the audience with very few competition present. These days, if you look at the App Store, let's say, all the trends are already set in stone. Top 10 most used applications have been sitting there for years for the most part, and it would be extremely difficult for a new application to break into this exclusive club. Don't get me wrong, you can make some money here and there with your little application, but if we're talking about becoming a millionaire, making some life-changing money, then you would have to break into this top 10 most downloaded applications on App Store to do that. And of course, chances to do that for existing platforms are very small. Whereas when this new headset comes in, there are no apps, there are no trends. Anything can become popular and everyone can set a trend. What I think is going to happen is that trends are going to come and go very quickly in the beginning, maybe every month or so. And I think if you simply chase what's popular right now and build similar apps fast, then there are good chances that your app can become popular too, given how low the competition is going to be there in the beginning. And that will do it for me. If you like the content, please like, subscribe and leave a comment to support the channel. That really helps me out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, bye.